Hello and welcome back to another sci-fi narration with me, Zero Option. Before we begin this reading, I'd like to take a second and ask that if you enjoy this content, please leave a like and a comment down below. It really helps me in the algorithm. Also, join our Discord or even our new subreddit, r/0battalion, where you can submit stories to be read, and we've also got channels on Odyssey and Rumble. So with all that out of the way, let's begin this week's stories. First up is The Pyramids of Mars by u/Seraphim663. And the second is California Dream by u/Normancrane. So without further ado, here we go. The Pyramids of Mars. Our ship finally docked after a 2-year journey. We left our cryogenic pods, muscles sore after nearly endless hibernation. An attendant took us from the ship to the station where we would be staying. Through the glass tube, they called this the Red Planet, as everything that covered it was a shade of rust. The blood iron soil joined the scarlet sky. They brought me here to study the channels, a vast tunnel network on the surface of Mars, a result of melting ice. I glanced at the landscape in the distance, towering triangular structures. Supposedly they were natural phenomena, but the channels fed to them. He led me back to my corridor and gave me a prepared meal along with some purified water. It was simple and freeze-dried, but the most I'd eat in months. They would give me 24 hours to acclimate, but my first mission was tomorrow. I would study the channels near the network of pyramids. Sick of sleep, I went to the gymnasium at the station. It felt great to exercise and move the stiffness out of my body, even if a freezing 2-minute shower followed. I left refreshed and mingled with the crew of the space station. The station held people from all nations. I had advanced knowledge of geology, was preparing to take soil and mineral samples. Perhaps I'd be lucky enough to find a source of water in this place. When I told people I was going through the channels later that day, they fell silent. Some told me to be careful and warned me of hazards. One of the chief scientists pulled me aside and said the last geologist at the channels had met with an untimely demise. He went into gruesome detail about how he removed his helmet and his eyes removed. The medical staff believed he had a mental break, that he couldn't adjust to the new environment. The chief said I could have an extra day to adjust and see a therapist if I needed. I told him I'd spent 2 years cramped on a shuttle and didn't care to spend my time on a cramped Martian station. I told him I'd let him know if anything unusual happened on the channels, and I just shirked this off. I felt perfectly fine and needed to get outside. We left only a few hours later. The rover would take us over an hour to reach the channels. I left with a fellow geologist in a passenger rover that steadily made its way toward the pyramids. The sky gleamed overhead in shades of orange, vermilion, and scarlet, shot with millions of stars. The immense mountains loomed in the distance, shadows stretching for eternity. Despite the fiery colors, the air was freezing enough to sense through my spacesuit. I wiggled my fingers and toes, activating the thermal device that warmed them instantly. After an hour, the rover stopped, and we got out and went to our work. I took a small glass vial and filled them with the red soil. I was so immersed in my work that I didn't hear the panicked screams of my partner. I didn't notice the massive dust storm until it was too late. Lightning coursed through the dust as silt pelted me. I leaned against the howling wind until I came to the base of the pyramid. Hunkering down, I hoped I would have enough shelter to survive. Something tapped my shoulder and turned around. Thinking it was my partner, instead, a pale creature with huge indigo eyes stood in front of me. It spoke to me and I listened to its words. They reverberated through me, and I was one with everything. I understood the meaning of the universe and God, Mars, Earth. The entire universe seemed so tiny. I understood the greatness beyond measure spoken through the words of this being. It solved hunger, ended violence, greed, brought peace to all of humanity. I listened to its words. The storm ended, leaving a vast array of stars in a crimson sky, all perfectly aligned. The creature walked away and stopped speaking, vanishing into the red earth. Sickly human flesh surrounded me, its animal smell filling my nose. I tried to remember the greatness that is bestowed on me, but it left my mind like water flowing out of a stream. My body was slowly rotting. I smelled nothing but death and decay, the weakness of humanity, and my own crippling ignorance. I wanted to tear off my helmet and gulp in the helium air until I no longer existed, to gouge out my eyes and not see the muted colors. Oh, how I wish I had listened! But now, I'm here in this room of white padded walls until the next ship comes to fetch me. They are no longer sending people into the channels as it causes mental instability. I just wish I remembered what the being told me. I could fix all of us if I remembered what it had told me. The stars will come right, and I will remember everything it showed me, and I will be a god. I'm a travel vlogger. Last year, I visited Kazakhstan, and near Sultan, I met a Russian expat, who after a heavy night of drinking suggested, "My American friend, if you want the interesting story, visit village to the northwest called K. In this village, people fall asleep, not for night, but days, weeks, months. There's no explanation." So I make my way there. K's population is under 700. It resembles a forgotten, decaying Soviet relic. The inhabitants are warm-hearted, but few wish to discuss what they call the sleeping sickness. It occurs, one says. "I slept for 3 months and awoke," another tells me. "So what?" I see for myself several of the afflicted, wrapped in blankets, breathing softly. "My father's been sleeping for 4 years. I'm afraid he will never wake up." The nights in K are, well, supremely quiet. One night, I meet a man introduced as Colonel Denisov. He carries a laptop, which he opens before me. "Wish to understand?" he asks me. He plays me a video. 1962, he says. I see footage of rockets, of nuclear weapons, of the utter devastation of America. North America is wasteland. You are but a dream. People dying. An illusion, the result of collectivized imagination. Cities empty. Presently, beneath Russia and Kazakhstan, millions are dreaming the USA into existence. We annihilated you. Initiated Kaliforniyskaya Mechta discover-up. Why are you telling me this? Because you are a mere figment. Because it is over. The USSR is gone, and the project is underfunded, failing. The American dream is flickering. Upon returning to America, I met with a member of the US intelligence services. He was dismissive until I said, "K." I was ushered into another room, another member. I explained what I had learned. Kaliforniyskaya Mechta is an American psyop, she said, an improvised form of nuclear deterrence. What's more effective than mutually assured destruction? A conviction you've already destroyed the enemy. But as she said this, she and I, all around us, seemed to phase in and out of solidity, an effect she blamed on the power generators. Are you foolish enough to believe that we're together being dreamed in an underground Soviet facility in K because they sleep of CO? I know then I will have a reoccurring dream. I will be running as my skin peels off. There will be mayhem, from which I'll have to be awoken to find myself in immense underground space filled with row upon row of beds. In the darkness, I will sit up. Yuri, you must sleep. An injection. I have fallen into a dream of which I'm falling, through darkness towards darkness, from which gradually emerges my body, gargantuan, but as I fall toward it, it recedes, getting smaller and smaller, until it is the size of my actual body. In my eyes, staring into my eyes, I impact. America, my promised land. I get up, brew coffee, and listen to the twittering birds. Sometimes they sound so false.